Hello my friends, Whip here and welcome on back to Minecraft. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a diagonal house in Minecraft. This one right here is what we're going to be basing this off of. This whole good old structure right here behind me is the general idea that we're going to be using moving forward throughout this one. But what we're going to be looking at is this slightly angular one. I think this would probably be like a 60 degree or 30 degree or something like that. I don't really know, something around there. And then we're also going to be looking at the straight 45 degree. I know a lot of people currently inside of Minecraft love to build on this straight 90 degree angle. So we have a straight line right here and we have a straight line right there. And I want to take the time to show you how we can make this same house on those angular things, and it should work out pretty well. It's a slightly different game plan for each of those designs that we're going to be going for. But first, let's take a look through this house right here. On the outside, we have a little bit of a shed overhang. At this point, that's just storing some firewood right in there with our campfires. Then we just got a few barrels over here. We got some windows. We got a few windows in the roof. And the general outside of this has some stone on the far ends, just because I think that'll make it a little bit easier to get the concept across. And you can see some windows on the ends of both of these. And then our roof here is just a stair, full block stair, reaching all the way up to the top. We got a chimney poking out the back. And down here on the inside, we do have the interior as well. So we're going to be talking about how to build a diagonal interior, because a lot of people are like, well, interiors only work well in square shapes or rectangular shapes or 90 degree shapes. So that's not quite true. What we have in here is just a general eating area. We got the kitchen, a sitting area, some storage, some plants and all that stuff. And then a little bit of a ladder to get ourselves up to this next floor. Then the kids' room is right over here. Close that one down. And we have the parents' room with some more storage and all that good stuff going on in here. But anyways, let's get into the first build. We're going to be talking about how to build the roof on this one, which I think is a very good concept to be starting with here. To give you all the general shape of this one, we'll leave the detail on that. This is just going to be the general shape and style of here, but like the texture variation, everything like that, you can just see that right there as we're looking at it. It starts with cobblestone at the base with some mossy stone mixed in, bringing in some andesite and some stone, and all the way up to the top. Now for this house, all we're going to need for the roof here is some smooth stone slabs to throw on tops of every single one of these blocks, which is pretty easy to do. And it's just like that on both sides. Then where things start to get a little interesting, because if we just did the wall or the roof directly like this, we're going to end up with all of these open little gaps right there. So what we can do is take in this one and turn it that way, take this one, turn it that way, and we can do this on both sides. So you can kind of see here where we'd have those open gaps. We just turn the stair block. Gets super easy. And then we just continue that same roof pattern coming all the way up here to the top, just bringing these full blocks all the way across. And then we do the same thing with the stairs again, moving up to that next layer. And this is kind of where things get to that same point in the middle. Just carry this one all the way up to the top until we get to that point where we do that top center bit. And that's where this roof gets a little bit more interesting here as well, just because we're going to end with a few spots in here where we might have some double wide spaces to work with, or we might have a few very skinny spots, just depending on the general shape that you go with for the base area. The base frame that we had down there, it kind of gets you to a few different points. For example, right here, we're going to be coming in like this, and then that brings us just perfectly across right there, and it lines up really, really well with what we had. And then bringing in a few of those slabs just to add some detail so it's not totally flat up here is just adding in right like that. Now, this can be a little rigid, you could say, with a bunch of straight lines being throughout here. And so what you can kind of do is bring in a few of those. And I know we talked about not doing this, but then you can, if you want to, you can just throw a little slab right in there, and that helps to actually smooth these areas out a lot. So you're not just getting a very like rigid line. You can actually kind of smooth those things out and then just do a few areas like that and just mix it up so there's some variety to it, and it doesn't look quite as flat. But as soon as we start adding some of these windows in here, like maybe one right over here, that's where things start to make a lot more sense. And on these ones, it's kind of hard to do them that way, so I prefer we can just do something like, yeah, we might want to do it like right like this. So we can do that, and we can do the little slabby action right inside of there, throw a slab on top of it. And I've been personally using the orange stained glass in here just for some fun color to be adding in. And there we go, we got a window. Now the details for the front of the house are pretty easy since it's not too much going on in here. And all we do is these guys right across here. One thing I like to personally do on door frames is throw a polished andesite up there if you're using like a stone wall or something like that, because it makes it look a little bit more fortified. But anyways, one interesting one is on the original build, if we're taking this as an exact clone of that, is we had our window right there. Obviously, orange stained glass pane, not quite going to cut it. So what we can do is here is just bring in that full orange glass block. Then that next one over here, we can just do that same little glass pane right there. And then we can just add in our barrels right there. And that's kind of the exact clone of what we had over there. It doesn't look too much different, but you can already see it has a lot more interest to it. What you can do on top of this one right here, because it does look a little full right inside this area, is one, you can simply move it over to here if you want to and do that stained glass pane. But I kind of want to keep this as that direct same one that we have just for the sake of we're working on this as showing how to build these. So what you can do here is add a little shutter that you can close and open as you want. If you're just now getting into building angular buildings and this is your first take at it, one thing that's going to make this one a heck of a lot easier to build is this is flat and this line is flat. The only thing that we're doing is we're making the middle of the structure move over at this angle, but both end sides of these are very flat, whereas this full 45-degree one we're going to be getting to next here is everything is on an angle. Whereas this gives you a lot of that easy way of working into it, learning what works and what doesn't work, with only focusing on 2 of the sides to mix up instead of 3. Also, I did bring in the texture variation. If you can't tell by now, it is all in here. And what we're going to be doing is the reason why I wanted to point that out is because on this one, it makes it a heck of a lot easier just to bring some things in right like this coming across here. And what we had kind of done at this point was bringing them out to here, and then we get one like that, and just kind of working this all the way across here helps us to build this up. This is just a 5 wide area that's 4 blocks that steps down, and to make sure it lined up correctly at this point, I just added the stairs onto the end there, and it kind of helps to round it a bit too if you're trying to add some more interest to it. You could also come in here and add them like that if you wanted to, and then do like another one right in there, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Then bringing in our firewood logs that we had was all those, and then maybe we extend that out to like right here and just do a bunch of campfires around this area, and then we need to put them out. I know a lot of people say you can take a shovel to do it, but I don't believe you can do that inside of Java Edition. I believe that's only Bedrock at this point, so we gotta do the water bucket trick. I personally find doing this in survival is a heck of a lot easier because you can just do that, whereas in creative you have to do this, and then you swap over to your other bucket and pick it up, because you can't use just a water bucket to empty it and fill it in creative. It always stays filled. But that'll pretty much do the job there. You can scatter some coarse dirt around here as you want. Now, I won't lie to y'all. Interiors on diagonal houses don't quite work as well as they might if you're building up a straight one, because obviously there's less block space, and we have a lot of things like beds and double chests inside of Minecraft that don't go at an angle. So what I want to do in here just to get ourselves started is we're going to be bringing in a bunch of wood logs like this just on the corners, which is going to help us to kind of round this area out and make it feel a lot warmer inside just having all of this wood in here. Then another thing that we're going to be doing is bringing in those spruce stairs that we had on the outside and just adding them in along all of these base ones, and that'll actually help figure out a lot of these open points that we had inside, and you can kind of just do stuff like this and bring it all the way around. I added in the floor for the second area, so we got our ceiling in here in place, and what we can start to do in here is bringing in some of these spruce trapdoors, which were basically, I added in some lanterns down here just to get ourselves some light, and these just dotted along this area right here. This is where things are going to get a little bit more interesting than they would inside of that regular interior that we had, because originally our door was on this far side over here on the 5 long one, but now that would be into a wall, so that doesn't quite work. So we can cover that up here, add in that one, and then we can do the doorway right in there. Then also what we had done was basically just breaking a few of those out, and breaking out these ones gives us a good area to add in some barrels for some extra storage, because, you know, that just gives us some free space, and we're going to hide them on the other side, so that gives us some good amount of space right there. You got so much storage in this area now. And this front little entry area that we had was very, very simple. There's not too much to this one. The shape for this is basically the same as the original one, so we can just move on to that next area. So right in here is where we want to bring in that pillar so we can get all the way up to the top, and just so we can have a way to get to the second floor, which is going to be right up here. The second floor on this one is actually going to be a little interesting compared to what we had done before, because if you come up here right now, there's not really space to move around with having these stairs on the inside. So unfortunately, probably want to get rid of most of these ones as we're going throughout, because that actually gives us some space where we can walk through here. Granted, these ones like that are all things that we actually need to have in here, otherwise we get those holes into the outside, and unless you want a window here, probably not a good idea. I figured a good way to speed things up here and just show you the end result is here is the original interior that we have for the large area, and here is the slightly angled one. As you can see, it is pretty different than the original one. There's not a perfect way to make it an exact one-for-one because we're working on an angle in here, but I think it works pretty well. Didn't add the carpet in, but y'all can kind of see where that would fit right in this area right here. The upper floor, as I've been kind of working through it, is a lot different. It's a lot different than what we originally had. This is where the chimney would be coming out right here. So then unfortunately that means we also need to turn this block out right there. Do that, grabbing the full block, and then we need to grab our little slab right there to fill in that spot. Then our chimney would just kind of come out this way right here, and we do that old chimney campfire thingy on top of it. And then thankfully for this one being the way it is currently, with just being this like 30-degree house, we have the ability to easily throw in a lot of those beds. Then you would just fill in the rest of the storage things throughout here. And if you want to add in a doorway, your best bet is to add something in right about at this point for here, just so you can have that doorway right there. Easy way to get in and out of the rooms. You have our up and down area right here. The kids' room could be over in this area, and then that'd be pretty easy. And since this is just like that, it might actually be better to fill in some of these weird spots that you have and just kind of narrow it down so it's not so hectic around everywhere in here. I do hope you all found that first one useful, and now let's take a chance to tackle the 45-degree house that we have here. This one is a lot more difficult than the original one, mostly when it comes down to doing our roof design here. And the way you're going to see me do this one is I'm going to use a lot more slabs than I would have used inside of the original roof. You can see that we used a lot of stairs back over in this first one right here. And unfortunately, stairs do not work very well on a straight 45-degree angle building. So we want to first bring in these things again like we have been. And now we are at this point right here. And this is where things start to get a little more interesting, because we are at a very weird point where we kind of want to have this slowly coming up off of the base here. So you can kind of bring this in a little bit this way right in here. And we might lose the ability to do a second floor, but as you can see, I'm just using the slab and then a full block and kind of bringing it all up. It looks like we're coming up a half slab at a time right here. And at this point, we're actually going to bring this one up a full slab, and then bringing in here, we want to do another like this, and then a full block, and then probably a slab right there. Now our roof does look a little bit more interesting than say those ones being with all these weird angles and everything. And I thought a cool way that we could actually kind of bring in incorporating a few of our stair blocks that we have is doing these little patterns going across here, which is basically just going to be a little plus shape right there with some stairs on both sides, and then doing slabs on those open areas. So it'd be like this, and then we're going to do another slab, and then something right up in here, and we should be able to just use some stairs around here. And this roof should be, for the most part, I believe it's mob proof as well, so it's going to add on to everything else we're doing. But as y'all can see, it's much different looking than the other ones that we have in here. But adding in some of our details, our doorway is going to be a bit more interesting than anything else that we would be using beforehand, because if we just use one door, you got an open spot. Well, I guess you could do that, and then you kind of fill in that one. But what I like to do for these personally is come on the inside here and just place in two like this, and then they both kind of open out to the sides like that, and it should be pretty good. Then of course we can't use any glass panes in here for our windows, so we're kind of using this little stuff right in here, using our full glass blocks if we still have some. For all of our windows, we're going to be using the full glass blocks like that, and then you can kind of come over here and just dot these in here as well on the two ends. And just, it's very easy after you kind of start getting the rhythm with it. Instead of using panes, you just kind of use full blocks. And then what I personally like to do is, if we can grab, I lost all of the blocks I use on the outside. So for our little entrance right here, you can simply just do something like this, and it narrows it down quite a bit, but a person is still able to walk through right there. You can make it even wider if you want to, but I'm going to leave it that skinny, because what I like to do on these diagonal ones is where we have all of these things is just start bringing in a bunch of trapdoors around them, and it kind of helps to nestle it in there and not feel so just like obtrusive and just like in line with the stone. If you add some trapdoors around it, it makes it feel a lot more like a window and more attached into here, and kind of gives that illusion of it's a stained glass pane. And we can't use our trapdoor wall that we had been using in there, but this structure is actually, there's a lot more space in here than we had on the first one, so we can actually fit in a lot more stuff. So if we kind of do this, bring in these ones all the way across here, we can bring this kind of roof all the way up to the top of this. And I think, let's say like right there is a good floor to have our second layer, and we actually might have a lot more space in here than we ever would have had originally. So we could be very, very well off on this one. And instead of doing this double wide door that we have right there, what you can actually do is bring yourselves right in this way and bring that wall up to right here. And then we can kind of add in a single doorway right there. And that should help you bring in more straight lines into these areas and start introducing a few flatter walls to adding more detail bits in there. But let me mess around with this front area and we'll show you the before and after. All right, so the new entry area looks a bit like this one right now. It's actually a lot bigger than it was originally on the small one, like the straight 90-degree one. I tried making what I did to this one is that is like 11 or 12 blocks long and 7 blocks wide. And so I did that exact thing over here so that we can make it match exactly for like the shape of it, and just did it at the direct angle, which of course being angular introduces a lot more space in here. So on this side, for example, I was able to actually cram in a staircase here to get us up to that second floor instead of it just having like a walkway up here. So I thought that was kind of cool. And what I'm working on now is just showing y'all how we can kind of bring in a few more things, and especially bringing up this floor right here. And this introduces us into working in this area down here. As y'all remember, we had the seating area over in this area, the seating area right in this general spot. Then we had the cooking area, the smoker right over here, and some workstation stuff and some more workstation stuff. And adding in things like these logs right here create these flatter areas, which will actually make it a heck of a lot easier for adding in those detail bits that we want to, because obviously it's a little hard to build things, especially furniture type things, on a direct angle here. So creating an illusion of having these flatter walls in here can actually really help us out. So I'm thinking for this one, we can do this again right here, and that works, but it looks a little awkward. So I think on this one, we're actually going to bring it out to this side right here. And then this one is actually where our chimney is going to be going. Then we can bring in our cobblestone wall to kind of hook all that stuff up, and bringing in a few more paintings. And what I'd been doing on this top area is just a loom turned around right there. So I think just for the sake of time, we're just going to have that one straightened out. And then I've been throwing in one of our paintings of all of the pots and pans and everything right there, and bringing in the trapdoors for that section. We're pretty much good there. And then for our seating area, let's just have it kind of popping out right over here, and then bringing in a few of our oak stairs just to have somewhere for people to sit down. And then we need to start figuring out places where we can throw in, like we had the barrels and everything in the ceiling, and then we also had like those pots and those little flower pots right over in that area. So maybe we do something like this, and we're just kind of turning the furniture around so it's not the exact same as what we had previously, but we can start to turn a few bits of this stuff around right here. And that should be able to give us that same sense of like the same sense of like a working station that we had previously. That guy right there, we can throw our crafting table right in over here. Maybe we just use some storage bits down underneath this section, throw a chest in right over here, and maybe another one right there. And that gives us a heck of a lot of storage area that we could be using. And then the flower pots obviously would just be in this area. As you can see though, it's not too hard to turn an interior space that's on an angle into something that works pretty well. We actually have this massive open area here in the center as well. So maybe we can bring in a second table right here, where maybe somebody like uses this to prepare some food. And so we can throw like a stone pressure plate that maybe they're using as a cutting table or something like that. So they can also have like this area to prepare things. They have this area here as well. And overall, there's actually more space that can be used. You could almost divide this up into a second room. And so we can bring in something like, maybe we decide to throw in like a secondary wall right in here, and just have something right like this, bringing in a few stairs along the top there just to help straighten that bit out. But then you actually have a full little entry doorway right in here, and you have this little entry room leading up into the kitchen, and then we have everything else. So you can kind of see that it divides everything up there pretty perfectly, pretty seamlessly. And now we just have these extra little bonus rooms and everything. And the upstairs area, this is where it gets a little difficult with the beds and things, but we can pretty easily do this by just kind of, instead of having the beds previously we're going at these ways, maybe we can have like one right here, and maybe like another one like they're sleeping toe to toe or something with their beds at the angles. And then we can do another one for the parents. They could actually we have the space to do it, so maybe we do like a double size bed for them right there. And then that kind of leads us to, like, we have all these little spots right in here, and we can just pop one of these out and throw in one of our orange stained glass and do a window right there, and then do another window right here. Then you can probably imagine filling in the rest of this stuff with just like full blocks right throughout here, and you get another little entry doorway to that one. And maybe we fill these in so it looks a little bit more cramped and you're actually walking through something into the next room. Then you just fill in all these little gaps as you want to with your storage stuff. One thing I realized I forgot to show y'all was this little side one here, and we're just using some slabs right throughout here. And different from how we've done the last ones is, since we're on a direct angle, is I kind of made these little W shapes, like in one extended W, and just working its way down here. We can't get as big of a one because you come down a lot quicker at a slab going diagonally. But also a fun fact that I just realized is splash water bottles, they can extinguish fires for you. But anyways, everybody, I do hope this video was useful for you all, and I hope this was able to help a few of you tackle the diagonal structures a little bit more easily. Let me know in the comments below any other building tips or tricks or things that you all see me do constantly that you all want to be seeing. Some more information on how to do them yourselves. Again, I do hope this was helpful. Be sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you are brand new, and I will catch you on the flip side.